welcome to Inner Peace Better Health, where we explore the profound connections welcome between well being and ancient wisdom. I'm your host, Saima, and today we have the incredible David Youngren joining us to discuss escaping the prison of your mind. So, David, your journey from battling anxiety and guilt to becoming a spiritual philosopher, it's truly inspiring. Can you share what initially made you realize you were trapped in the prison of your mind?
Certainly. Well, thank you, first of all, Simon, for the opportunity of being with you. I am delighted to share some of these things with you and your audience today. Uh, it's really started for me. I was in really began a search for me. I was in a inner turmoil. I struggled with, anger. People had done me wrong, and I struggled with um, really feeling like anxious about the future and what I was doing, and dealing with guilt. There was this plethora of negative emotions and mental unrest, and I came from, of course, from a very religious background, and was inspired by I was in the Christian community. I was a pastor. I was someone who was speaking to literally hundreds of thousands of people. But inside, I struggled. Struggled with all this plethora of negative emotions. And, a lot of people struggle with with stress, with fear, anxiety, and so on. And so I was one of them. And in the midst of it, one day, I sat on my bed overlooking the canyon below, and I simply just set out. Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." And I am supposed to be a follower of Jesus, and I'm not free. So, what is this freedom that something I must be missing about freedom? And that began a search for me to come to know that truth, which is what set me free. Now, in the beginning, I would think, well, religion or some religious beliefs will do that. But then I realized that religion is based on fear, it's based on control, it's based on really things that actually keeps you more in prison of the mind. And spirituality is something deeper within me, something that is an inner light, something that kind of just you begin to see, you begin to connect with something deeper within you, something that is like a peaceful presence, a love. So one day I was um, really going through a very difficult time, and I started having these cluster headaches to the point where I felt like someone was sticking a knife in my eye. And of course, I've studied science and neuroscience and quantum physics and so on. So I began
Mhm.
to understand that some of this related to the stress that I was feeling, the anxiety, the guilt, and the anger that I was feeling. I started having these cluster headaches, and for those who never heard of cluster headaches, it is, according to what I read online at least, and you don't know whether it's true or not, but what I read online is that it's the worst pain a human can suffer. And I felt like
Wow.
someone was sticking a knife in my eye. Now I realize that I'm not a woman, so women tell me that you have never given birth to a child, so you don't know what you're talking about. But it's what I learned, and what I've studied, at least on online, that is the worst pain a human can suffer. And I had this in the beginning every second day, and then every day, and then multiple times a day, and it would last anywhere from 45 minutes to 3 hours. It was just so incredibly painful. I would just lay in bed and cover my eyes and just lay and scream in pain. And I thought I'd rather die than live like this. And then one day, I had this inner prompting to meditate. And I didn't know anything about meditation. I was never raised in any kind of environment where meditation was something that you did. In fact, it was frowned upon. But I had this inner urge to meditate. I didn't know what it takes to meditate, how you meditate, as I said. But I sat down in my car, and I just began to imagine a picture in front of me of pure love. And I thought about, from a Christian background, Jesus typified pure love, not the religious Jesus, but the Jesus we read about, typified pure love. So I just began to focus on that, and when I did, instantly, within 2 minutes, I felt this rush of love, this overwhelming sense of selfless, unconditional love wash over me and an incredible peace. And then instantly the pain disappeared. And so that was the beginning of a spiritual journey, of a spiritual awakening. And then I began to realize that the more I began to meditate, I started feeling this incredible peace, just this incredible sense of love and awe and so on. And that led me then to begin to explore the question of what is truth and become a spiritual philosopher that, not necessarily connected with any religion, but just spiritually coming to a place of inner peace and helping people through their struggles to achieve mental well-being by just coming to a place of inner stillness.
I'm truly moved, David, by how you came through that difficult experience. And it's really inspiring that you came out and moved out of that. So, how did this realization set you on a path to deeper awakening and mental freedom?
Well, I think what happened was that, as I said, there was this. I wanted to be able to understand what was happening inside of me. I wanted to be able to articulate and being able to put it into words and what had really happened, like this presence, this awe-inspiring presence, this feeling of light, of this feeling of presence, this feeling of love and peace and grace and all of those things. I wanted to see why and what really was at the root of this. And so I began studying, as I said, um, philosophies, different spiritual traditions. I began to study science, quantum physics, and neuroscience to learn more about it and gain a deeper understanding. And that's what I wrote about in my recent book, Life Ascending: Unlocking Mental Well-being Through Timeless Wisdom and New Science. I wrote about this, the whole journey, and being able to understand it on a deeper level.
That's really noteworthy. Now, you talk about the convergence of ancient spiritual wisdom and new science. How do these two seemingly different fields come together to help us escape mental traps?
Well, that's a great question, Sam. Thank you for that question. Now, to some, it may seem like a contradiction, but ultimately, I believe that spiritual wisdom from all the various traditions, it's intuitive. They had an intuitive knowledge about something. They understood something at a deeper level. And the more we learn about science, we realize that many of these things are true. For example, in quantum physics, we learn about uh, the observer effect or the entanglement theory and so on. And what does that mean? Well, the observer effect simply states that without an observer, particles exist only in a um, non-local uh, informational space, so to speak. I'm not sure if I'm articulating that the right way. It only remains in a state of possibility. But when they are observed, they actually become particles. So they enter into the realm of dimension of time, space, and matter. And in other words, what we're able to observe, we are able to observe our surroundings. And so consciousness is at the root of that. And the more we learn from science is that they now believe that the entire universe is conscious to some extent. So that we're part of the one field of consciousness, so to speak, and we're all an emanation of that field, an emanation of consciousness. And so when you begin to learn these things and then you take spiritual wisdom, for example, of meditation, what you really are doing is you are moving beyond the mind, beyond the chaos of the mind, beyond the. I have a little thing here that if people would see this, if they would be able to see it, I have a little brain model here in front of me. And the brain consists of course, the major parts of the neurocortex, the emotional chemical brain, and then the cerebellum, which is really is the subconscious. And we all have been programmed since childhood, and information has been stored in our subconscious that then controls what we do and how we live. But what if we bypass that? What if we go deeper? What if we touch the deeper essence of who we are, uh, that I call consciousness, but spiritual traditions call spirit? What if we touch that deeper element of ourselves? What happens then? And that's really what when I began to meditate and come into that place of inner stillness, when I pictured love, this incredible love and peace. What happened then? There was a freedom that came, the freedom from the anxious thoughts, the freedom of that, because I went deeper than what than the mind, so to speak. And so that's really what I'm talking about, the relationship between spiritual wisdom. Yes, we see spirit, we see consciousness. There's a deeper reality. There's a one life, and a lot of these things that we also see and hear about in many spiritual traditions.
Okay, so can you provide an example of how neuroscience supports what mystics have taught for centuries?
Well, neuroscience, of course, I don't know whether they would necessarily say uh, use the same terminology as I used. But what we learn from neuroscience more than anything else is that, uh, that the brain, what is the brain? Well, it's many people have different ideas about what the brain is. And there are some who study this who suggest that the brain is a receiver of consciousness. It is like a radio signal of consciousness that then interprets what the what we see and what we hear. And so a lot of these things are the same. And for example, another example is that it talks a lot about in spiritual traditions about the deep mind. What is the deep mind? Well, often we think of that as it's the subconscious, the cerebellum, according to neuroscience. That is the habit forming part of the brain. So, for example, if you drive a car, the first time you engage your neocortex of your brain and the frontal lobe of your brain, and to learn how to do it. But eventually, you become so adept at driving that it's part of your subconscious. You just know how to do it without any conscious effort. You don't have to think. You just get in the car and you drive because it's in your cerebellum. So that's a deeper mind. And so spiritual text and spiritual wisdom talks a lot about the deeper mind that then controls how we live and what we do.
That really bridges science and spirituality. So, your book, Life Ascending, explores the phrase that the truth shall set you free. What does this phrase mean in the context of mental well being?
Well, freedom is, in the context of mental well-being, is freedom from the chaos of the mind. So many people live, as you know, somehow in the chaos of their mind. They are,
Mm-hmm.
uh, they are fearful. They are concerned about the future. They don't know how to pay their bills. They're concerned about the children and how they will live. They're concerned about how they will be able to face old age. They have all a plethora of these thoughts, negative emotions, and then they feel guilt, and then they get angry, and they get easily upset. And so to be free is simply to be free from these toxic emotions, to be free from this mental chaos, to come to a place of inner peace, inner sense of love and peace and wisdom and creativity, where you are no longer bound up by these thoughts, but you're actually free to explore, to create, and there is a deeper wisdom that flows from within, from that, as I said, pure state of consciousness, from the universal wisdom, from God, whatever name you want to give it. That there's a universal wisdom that flows through us, and and that's what I refer to when I speak of freedom.
How can understanding this truth help individuals break free from anxiety and overthinking?
Well, I think it's not so much. One time I met this gentleman on a golf course, and I was trying to convert him to my religion. To be quite frank with you, this is like 21 years ago,
Mhm.
and so I was trying to convert him, but he had such peace. He didn't want to talk about religious beliefs. He didn't want to talk about this or that or stories or narratives, but he exhibited and exuded such peace. It was just incredible, Simon. Just this incredible love and that flowed from him, and kindness and compassion, that I was taken in by it. I was mesmerized by how he was able to just be such a loving presence. And and I realized, after thinking about it for years, I literally thinking about and musing about that experience with this gentleman, and that I never met again after that. I thought, that, why was he like that? Well, because uh, ultimately, truth is something that is comes from within. The word for when Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free," and those are the words of Jesus. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Jesus, he spoke that in Aramaic. He didn't speak in English. He didn't speak in any other language. He spoke in Aramaic. Now, in Aramaic, the word for truth is shrara, which means an inner light. Now, what does light do? Light illuminates. And ultimately, consciousness is that which illuminates our reality. It is what makes us being able to understand, to experience life, to be able to that consciousness is that. Otherwise, we would just if it was just our brain, so to speak, and if we were just mechanical beings, we will be nothing more than AI, or we will be able to be intelligent, but there will be no life. There's no sense of life in AI, as you can, as you know, or in a
Mhm.
computer. But the fact that we are life. So the inner light is connecting with the deepest essence, with that which is universal, with God, with that deeper dimension of ourselves. So when I speak about truth and when I speak about freedom and all those things, I'm referring to coming to that place of inner stillness where the chaos of the mind subsides and we're absolutely free.
That really makes sense, David. Now, meditation is a key practice in your teachings. So, can you share that how does meditation help in rewiring the brain for peace and clarity?
Well, what happens when you meditate meditation is just awareness, right? And most of the time, our awareness is absorbed by our thoughts and emotions. So if we go back to consciousness again, our awareness is at the core essence, our deepest essence. And then there are filters. The filters are our emotions, our experiences, our thoughts. They are filters through which we experience reality. That's why we experience it in so many different ways. One person can watch a movie and cry, and the other person can watch the same scenes and actually laugh. One person can listen to a speech and find it offensive, and other really like it. Because why is that? Because the way we interpret reality is through our brain, through our experiences, through our past, what we experienced in the past. So meditation, what it does is it bypasses the mind. It puts a focus on our inner self, where that peaceful, loving presence resides. And so, meditation, when you sit down in meditation, like I do every morning, the whole purpose is to bypass my mind and just come to a place of inner stillness, the inner peace, and then allow that to uh, renovate my mind to the way I think and the way I experience the world.
I completely agree with that. So, are there any specific meditation techniques you would like to recommend for beginners looking to cultivate inner stillness?
Well, we have, if people go to our website, for example, davidyoungren.com, what they will be able to find is we actually have a free meditation there. It's called Be Still and Know. And that's the beginning part. It's just to focus on a few words and come to a place of inner stillness. That's the goal, come to a place of inner stillness. And then we have many other forms of meditation. For example, I meditate on the word peace for a period of time. I just sit down and just focus on the word peace. And until the word itself kind of disappears, and I'm just find myself in a state of peace. And then I also focus on love, unconditional, selfless love, that where I'm one with everyone, where I'm not in competition, that there are no enemies, but I'm one with everyone. So I just focus on the word love until I'm no longer focused on the word love, but I'm just in a place of being aware of this loving presence. And then, I go to a place of awe. Awe is recognizing there is something greater than me. There's a bigger force than me. God, there is something beyond my mind. And then come into a place of awe and recognize the sacredness in everyone. And then I come to a place of grace. And what does grace mean? That means my life is filled with grace. Everything I received is unearned favor. And I also extend that. And then I imagine myself extending that to the world. So it's a process where I go through. I start with peace, but then I kind of want to realign my life according to love and selfless love and being a compassionate person in the world. So, and also receiving love for myself. And then I come to the place of all recognizing that there is something greater than my small world. There's a greater force, and recognizing it's the sacredness of all people and everyone. And then coming to a place of grace where I'm able to then, as I said, be an extension to of that love and compassion to others.
I would surely like to go through a website, David. It really seems interesting to me. So, you emphasize the importance of inner stillness. How can someone cultivate this stillness amidst the chaos of daily life?
Well, you can do it through meditation. I start my morning every day with meditation, as I said. And the more you do that, the more it actually changes your brain. So you become less susceptible to the daily chaos, and you just come to a place of contentment. You're just in gratitude. You're no longer striving to become someone or to do something or have something. You're just grateful for life itself. So the more you meditate, um, that will help transform and change your way you think and the emotions you have. But also, another step, of course, is throughout the day, just taking a brief pause and just simply becoming aware. Just become very present in the now and take a deep breath, perhaps, or take 5 minutes of taking deep breaths for breathing in, holding it, and then breathing out again. And doing that um, will help you tremendously.
Those are really great steps, David. Thank you for sharing your profound insights and experiences with us today. Your dedication to helping others escape the prison of their minds is it's truly inspiring. And to all our listeners, remember that true freedom comes from within. Let's take action today to embrace inner stillness and create a more peaceful, fulfilling life. Until next time, stay mindful and keep seeking inner peace. Thank you. I'd be delighted to have you back on the